Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. So it's a common tradition for most Chaldeans from Iraq to make, or Iraqi people in general, to make klecha around the holidays. These cookies are normally stuffed with dates and nuts, and once you try one, you will absolutely fall in love with them. So let's get started. I will show you what you will be needing to make these cookies. We will need a cookie mold, something similar to that. For the dough, we will need 2 pounds of flour, 5 butter sticks, and I will need to melt that, 1.5 cup of Bisquick, and we'll need half a cup of warm milk. Into that, I will be adding 1 cup of warm water. I will need 2 tablespoons of caraway seeds, 2 tablespoons of cardamom seeds powdered, and 2 tablespoons of fennel seed powder, half a tablespoon of yeast, dry yeast, and then 1 small teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of sugar. For the stuffing, we have 2 cups of walnuts, some rose water, half a cup of sugar, and 2 packages of this type of baking dates. Now on low heat, I'm putting all 5 butter sticks and I'm going to melt it. Then I will turn off the heat and let it cool down. For the dry ingredients, the 2 pounds of flour and then 1.5 cup of Bisquick, I'm going to mix them together. And to that, I will be adding the half of tablespoon of dry yeast and 1 small spoon of salt and the 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 tablespoons of caraway seeds, 2 tablespoons of powdered cardamom seeds, 2 tablespoons of powdered fennel seeds. I'm gonna give it a quick mix. And then after my butter had cooled down, I'm gonna add it to the dry ingredients. And then on the side, I have the half a cup of warm milk. I went ahead and added 1 cup of warm water to it, and I will be using it after I mix everything together. It is very important to mix the butter with the dry ingredients and rub them together for 10 minutes. You want to end up with almost like sand feeling in your hand before you add the milk and the warm water. So this is 1.5 cup of the milk and the water together, but I'm only using a little over 1.25 cup. But if you feel that your dough is a little hard, you can go ahead and use the whole thing. After I mixed everything together, I'm just going to feel the dough. I'm going to cut a little piece just to make sure it's not too hard. And this is good. You just don't want your dough to be extremely hard. I'm just going to let it rest for half an hour. I will cover it with a towel and a blanket and come back to check on it in half an hour. Meanwhile, I put like a little bit of butter in a frying pan on low heat, extremely low heat, and I've added the 2 packages of date, and I'm adding 1 teaspoon of cinnamon powder and 1 teaspoon of cardamom powder, and then I will mix the dates well with that and turn off the heat and let it cool down before I use it for the stuffing for the cookies. This is after half an hour. I'm checking on my dough. Just want to make sure everything looks good. I'm just gonna give it a little mix here, or just a few fist pumps, and then I'm gonna cover it again and then put the blanket on top, and it might take you up to 1.5 hours to 2 hours depending on the temperature in your room. If it's warm, you might get to double in size within 1 hour and 30 minutes, if not 2 hours. Now in a bag, I put my nuts in a bag and I sealed it, and with a roller just crush them a little bit. Then after I did that, I moved them to a bowl and added the half a cup of sugar to it. Into that, I'm adding the cardamom powder. I'm adding 1 large tablespoon, or you could add more if you like the taste. And I will also add 3 tablespoons of the rose water. Rose water gives it a really nice flavor. You could add more if you do like the flavor. But here I added 3 tablespoons, and I think that's more than enough. Give it a mix and let it sit aside. Now for the dates, after they completely cooled down, I put a layer of plastic bag underneath, and I took a portion of those dates and put them in the middle, and then another plastic bag on top. And then with a roller, I'm gonna create this flat sheet of date stuffing, and I'm gonna lift it, and I will show you how thin you want it. Once you see the light through, that's a good thing. That's how thin you want it. I'm gonna remove that layer, the layer of plastic, put it aside. And here I have 2 eggs. I'm gonna beat the eggs, and we'll use that to brush the cookies with them. Now, after my dough is ready, and it took 2 hours, I took a good portion of the dough. I flattened it out to about a medium-sized pizza, and it's about 1/2 inch thick. And I have this small cup. I'm just gonna cut the molds for my cookies. And any cup you have, any small cup that you have, I'm using a Turkish coffee cup. You could use an espresso cup, anything small. So I cut all the circles and I removed the rest of the dough, and I will be using that later. Right here, I'm going to flatten out those little circles a little more before I start stuffing the walnuts in there. So I'm gonna take 1 tablespoon and put it inside this circle that I made, and I will close it and then put it in a mold and press on it, and then flip the cookie just like that. And there we go. Of course, I forgot to mention you will need a cookie mold, something similar to what I have here. I'll show you. And there's another example. Here's the cookie mold, and here's another example on how to fill your cookies, the Klecha. And then you just press and then flip, and there you go. And I will be moving that to the baking sheet. Those are the walnuts, and right here I will be showing you how to fill and cut the date cookies. This time I'm gonna make the circle a little larger and a lot thinner than the first one. It would be a little thinner than the other one. I put all the date on top, and I left some of the edges, didn't fill the edges, and I cut it in half, and I'm gonna roll from the beginning to the middle like that. And then I'm gonna fix this a little, and I'm gonna roll it same way. I'm gonna put it like that. I'm going to flatten it out a little bit with the roller, and I'll do the same thing with the other one. And now I'm just cutting the edges because I want my cookies to look nice. You could use a knife, or you could use one of those cookie cutters. In an angle, you just keep going like that. It's really easy to create the cookie shapes for the Klecha. And same thing on the other side. Now I'm gonna get a fork, and I'm gonna poke it with it like 3 times for each Klecha. And here we go. They look like this. I will move them to the baking sheet, and I'm going to brush them with eggs, and I've added a little bit of saffron powder to my eggs just to give it a little nice color. And I'm going to brush all of them before I put them in the oven. I preheated the oven on 400 degrees, and after I brush the Klecha with the eggs, I will put them in the oven. Like I said, I preheated the oven on 400 degrees, and I'm only leaving these in there for 12 minutes, no more than that, on the middle shelf, and this is on convection bake. So I will show you what it looks like after 12 minutes. This is the first tray. They smell so good. And they look beautiful. And I'll show you the second tray. I ended up with 2.5 trays with this recipe. So I ended up dividing the dough into 3 pieces, and this is what I got. It's more than enough. They're delicious and they look beautiful. They're easy to make. I hope you try this recipe. They're so good, and they're not that complicated to make. And I do suggest that you have this with coffee or tea. They're absolutely delicious. Thank you for watching my video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.